King Aegon himself had more success, marching eastward through the foothills, where runoff from the heights provided water and game was plentiful in the valleys. He took the castle Skyreach by storm one runward after a brief siege. The Lord of the Tor had recently died, and his stewards surrendered without a fight. Farther east, Lord Torland of Ghost Hills sent forth his champion to challenge the king to single combat.
Aegon! Face me if you dare! Your conquest ends here! Fight me now!
Aegon accepted and slew the man, only to discover afterward that he had not been Torland's champion but his fool. Lord Torland himself was gone, as was Mirya Martell, the Princess of Dorne, when King Aegon descended upon Sunspear on Valyria, to find his sister Rhaenys there before him. After burning the Plunky town, she had taken Lemonwood, Spotswood, and Stinkwater. Accepting obeisances from old women and children, but nowhere finding an actual enemy. Even the Shadow City outside the walls of Sunspear was half deserted, and none of those who remained would admit to any knowledge of the whereabouts of the Dornish lords and princes. The yellow toad has melted into the sands, Queen Rhaenys told King Aegon. Aegon's answer was a declaration of victory. In the great hall at Sunspear, he gathered together what dignitaries remained and told them that Dorne was now part of the realm, that henceforth they would be his leal subjects, that their former lords were rebels and outlaws. Rewards were offered for their heads, particularly that of the Yellow Toad, Princess Mirya Martell. Lord Jon Rosby was named Castellan of Sunspear and Warden of the Sands to rule Dorne in the king's name. Stewards and castellans were named for all the other lands and castles the conqueror had taken. Then King Aegon and his host departed back the way they had come, west along the foothills and through the Prince's Pass. They had hardly reached King's Landing before Dorne erupted behind them. Dornish spearmen appeared from nowhere, like desert flowers after a rain. Skyreach, Yonwood, the Tor, and Ghost Hill were all recaptured within a fortnight, their royal garrisons put to the sword. Aegon's castellans and stewards were allowed to die only after long torment. It was said that the Dornish lords had a wager over who could keep their captive alive the longest, whilst dismembering them. Lord Rosby, Castellan of Sunspear and Warden of the Sands, had a kinder end than most. After the Dornishmen swarmed in from the Shadow City to retake the castle, he was bound hand and foot, dragged to the top of the Spear Tower, and thrown from a window by none other than the aged Princess Mirya herself. Soon only Lord Tyrell and his host remained. King Aegon had left Tyrell behind when he departed. Helholt, a strong castle along the River Brimstone, was thought to be well situated to deal with any revolts. But the river was sulphurous, and the fish taken from it made the High Gardener sick. House Corgyle of Sandstone had never submitted, and Corgyle's spearmen cut down Tyrell's foraging parties and patrols whenever they strayed too far west. The Vaiths of Vaith did the same to the east. When word of the defenestration of Sunspear reached the Hellholt, Lord Tyrell gathered his remaining strength and set off across the sands. His announced intention was to capture Vaith, march east along the river, retake Sunspear and the Shadow City, and punish Lord Rosby's murderers. But somewhere east of the Hellholt, amidst the red sands, Tyrell and his entire army disappeared. No man of them was ever seen again. Aegon Targaryen was not a man to accept defeat. The war would drag on for another 7 years. Though after 6 AC, the fighting degenerated into an endless bloody series of atrocities, raids and retaliations, broken up by long periods of inactivity, a dozen short truces, and numerous murders and assassinations. In 7 AC, Orys Baratheon and the other lords who had been taken captive on the Boneway were ransomed back to King's Landing for their weight in gold. But on their return, it was found that the widow lover had lopped off each man's sword hand, so they might never again take up swords against Dorne. In retaliation, King Aegon himself descended on the mountain fastnesses of the wilds with Valyrian and reduced half a dozen of their keeps and watchtowers to heaps of molten stone. The Wilds took refuge in caves and tunnels beneath the mountains, however, and the widow lover lived another 20 years. In 8 AC, a very dry year, Dornish raiders crossed the Sea of Dorne on ships provided by a pirate king from the Stepstones. Attacking half a dozen towns and villages along the south shore of Cape Wrath, and setting fires that spread through half the Rainwood. Fire for fire, Princess Media is reported to have said. This was not something the Targaryens would allow to go unanswered. Later that same year, Visenya Targaryen appeared in the skies of Dorne, and Varga's fires were loosed upon Sunspear, Lemonwood, Ghost Hill, and the Tor.